Hello everybody, and welcome to Chef on a Boat, where I'll show you how to create large flavors in small spaces. On today's episode, I'll show you how to make celery root puree, which is really a great substitute for mashed potatoes. It's low on carbs, very flavorful, and it pairs great with either seafood or chicken, pork, or my favorite, short ribs. So on that note, let's go ahead and get started. I always like to create a flat surface on whatever I'm cutting. It makes things much more stable and helps prevent cutting accidents. Celery root is also known as celeriac, and although it's in the same family with celery stalks, it's a tad different. I like it because it has a nutty flavor to it and is low in carbs. It makes a great substitute for potatoes. But some people do find the flavor rather strong. So when I make a celeriac puree or a gratin, I'll often add a potato for a milder flavor. A secret to great mashed potatoes or celery root puree is to add some milk when simmering. It adds creaminess during or while it's cooking. You'll want to bring it to a simmer and cook until it's tender when tested with a knife. That's generally about 20 minutes, but will depend on how thick the pieces were cut. If I'm making a large batch of puree, I'll put the celery root and potatoes back in the pot, but I do find it easier to use an immersion blender with a quart container. And because the celeriac and potatoes are still hot, the butter will melt as you mix them. With potatoes, you don't want to overblend, just pulse until it looks smooth. For a really smooth and silky puree, I press the cooked celery root and potatoes through a strainer. Now you don't need to do this, but it makes the puree more refined. Because the celery root is flavorful on its own, I don't use a lot of seasoning, just some white pepper, kosher salt, and sometimes some sour cream, which isn't really a seasoning, but it does kick up the creaminess level a notch. A little bit more salt, I think. And that's it. Here it's served with cocoa rubbed short ribs. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Until next time, bon appetit.